kind of bouncy. Not sure what this is set on. A lot of people talk about RedGuard peeling off. It's never meant to be peeled off, you know. It did its job. It did what it was supposed to do. This looks like HardieBacker. The HardieBacker is the same stuff we saw on the other side. But I'm going to take the face of this off and kind of find out what the makeup is of this bench. Something very interesting. As you can see, I'm kind of taking off the bench first because usually it's the benches and curbs that fail. If they had a knee wall, that would be the third one, but it's usually the curb, number one, that fails. The second one will be the bench, and then the knee wall. Sorry, the bench usually fails last. Well, it's kind of 50-50. Anyway, they wrap pan liner all the way up, and it is a wood bench. I can clearly feel the 2x4s in between. But the nail heads are rusted. So it's kind of interesting that not only are the nail heads rusted, but they put RedGuard over everything. Although, what it looks like to me, they didn't seal. So the nail heads are rusted without RedGuard. So there's no indentation of these nails. I would have used screws, countersunk them, and then, you know, pushed in some thin set on top of those and then RedGuarded those so that you don't have any water penetration. But, you know, they went way above the Call of Duty as far as putting the wrapping the pan liner, although they scabbed in some areas and they didn't glue it where they scabbed it in. Kind of a hodgepodge of putting it together, but their intention was good. They wanted a completely waterproof bench, and I don't know that it's not, because I got to look at the wood underneath it, but where they failed at, and this is HardieBacker, just like I knew it was. So HardieBacker is not an end all. You can see this is on the floor area, and you can see that it had been wet before. So the nail heads rusted. That would not have happened if they had countersunk instead of nails, if they had used screws and countersunk those. But it's really hard to countersink into HardieBacker. So I'm a little perplexed. I'm not going to say that the bench is not a failure, because again, this one had a lot of cracking going on. And because of that, I just anticipate that the wood in here is wet or somehow compromised or damaged or whatever. That one didn't, so I'm not expecting to see that there. But as I said, they went beyond the Call of Duty as far as the benches goes. They wrapped the whole thing with pan liner, which I don't. I only go up to there. But my wallboard goes over and a couple of coats of RedGuard go on it. And they didn't RedGuard the curb, which is odd, because they used a lot of RedGuard. Although they didn't, I'm not seeing it in the pan. And the tile is on the inside here, and I'm not. So when I get into the pan material, I guess I'll find out for sure what's going on. But on the curb itself, and yes, they perforated, of course, many times with nails in order to get the HardieBacker down onto the curb, which would have been okay had they waterproofed everything, but they didn't. So I don't know where it went now. I think my helper went out with it. But the curb material didn't have any RedGuard on it, which is where I see the failure on the curb. And I don't know that that's not compromised. So it could be that I'm seeing wood rot on both the curb and the bench. And then I don't know what they did under that. But, and I don't know if they separated the two, meaning the pan is not married with the bench. Well, actually I do know, because I can feel those 2x4s. So they did separate the two. But as I get into it more, it just kind of tells me more of the story of how they built it, which is, you know, to me kind of interesting. Even RedGuard outside of it. red guard outside of it where it's never going to see water. But yet it failed anyway. Okay, taking off the wallboard has exposed ants. Probably there's a whole mound behind there because they want it dry. Yeah, that doesn't tell me anything about the shower. That tells me more about the outdoor part of it. OSB. OSB with rusted nails. That's not good. That's not good at all. Well, I'm not finding a lot of wood rot. I don't know. I'll see more when I get it open. But this is damp. This is definitely damp, so there's been some compromise of some sort, which is a shame. They probably wouldn't have renovated the shower had the leak not happened over there, and I'm really curious to find out what that is. So this has nothing to do with the leak, but it's a little odd. Shower pan liner all the way up, a little odd. No red guard on this outside wall. And where do you see trowel marks? Yeah, but there's trowel marks where the red guard was. And they had red guard. They had red guard on the shower walls, but not on this back wall. And then there's no trowel marks. In fact, there's your trowel marks. But the ridges were never collapsed. So a lot of this tile is just falling off of the wall as I bang on it without much effort. Which again has nothing to do with the leak, but for those of you that are contemplating doing your own tile work, make sure you collapse your ridges. It doesn't do any good putting thinset on either side if you don't back butter and you don't collapse your ridges on the tile. It does you no good whatsoever. Same thing, no collapsed ridges. But yeah, wall's almost gone in sections, and I'm going to get to the pan and hopefully discover the major malfunction. A misnomer on HardieBacker, because it's cement, you won't wick up water. That is a misnomer. You will still wick up water. You will still get black mold and mildew. You will still get all the disadvantages of any other backer board. Just because it's HardieBacker, 90% Portland cement, they won't tell you the other 10%. Does not mean you won't have issues. You may not be aware of them, but obviously you have rusted nails. Rusted nails, even up there. And yeah, this is probably 18, 19 inches up the wall. More than likely because they stuck it inside of the pan, or at least made contact with it, which is another reason that I don't like floating, because it forces you to marry your wall to your pan material to your curb. And then you're going to have damage either unbeknownst to you or on the outside floor. But just thought I'd show that. Everything is taken out. There are some issues I'm going to go over, except for why the shower leaked, because I'm still not sure. This guy did a lot of things right. This guy, I'm guessing this is probably, if he's building showers on a consistent basis, he's definitely not doing it correct. He's trying to do things correct by wrapping the whole thing with pan liner, by red guarding on the bench and all that stuff, since yes, this is our failure. But as I said before, I knew that there was swelling going on, expansion going on, in large part because he used OSB. I don't like OSB. I stay away from it if at all possible. I would rather have plywood. If I'm going to build a bench, which I do, I'll put plywood on here rather than OSB. 3/4 or 5/8 plywood, because it doesn't have the propensity to swell up like that. But it shouldn't have got wet. And so that's the bigger issue. that it got wet really bad over here kind of speaks to, look at that, kind of speaks to his lack of knowledge on actually how to make things waterproof rather than, you know, just slapping a bunch of stuff on there. Speaking of slapping, I didn't even notice that. Look at that. I didn't notice this. So to make the curb, it looks like he used a bunch of scrap pieces. He used pressure treated on the bottom, which is okay. I wouldn't have done it, but then he switched to pine after that. But he's got one, at least, there might maybe two pieces, 1, 2, 3 different pieces of pressure treated wood with a huge gap in the center there, and then that is almost one long piece, and then it stops, and then that is 2 pieces. And you know, at the end of the day, it's small potatoes, but it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to build something, you know, spend another $3 for another piece of 2x4 is my take on it. Why have them separated like that? It doesn't make any sense. Be that as it may, that's why I'm kind of guessing, you know, he hasn't done a whole lot of showers. If he has, like I said, he's doing it kind of wrong. And you know, it caused problems. And it's not good when it causes problems with the homeowner, because at the end of the day, this shower should have lasted much longer than the homeowner, and it has not. I think I already mentioned CPVC on a couple of videos. I don't know why I'm running into it so much lately. CPVC, if you don't know, unlike PVC, whereas PVC is very rigid and stable, CPVC is less rigid and very unstable. I don't like it. I've had a lot of experience with it when I'm trying to either bend or twist it, and it just breaks like a 5-year-old chicken bone that's been dried out. And not necessarily on the corners either. It just elongated will just like so brittle, and it freaks me out anytime I see it, because it means that I can't put pressure on it. And so for that reason alone is why I shut off the water for sure. I mean, I would anyway doing a demo this size, but just know that CPVC, if you have it, be very, very careful handling it. Don't bend, don't twist, don't put pressure on it. Save yourself a flood. Anyway, getting back to the whole point of this. This is a very odd situation. And I'm not sure why this was done, because it was done from day one. If this was a plastic shower, which it arguably could have been, plastic meaning fiberglass shower and or fiberglass pan, then I could see this kind of configuration. But typically, when they build a house, you have your slab and there's a cutout. So this cutout would exist, as I said, on a fiberglass pan, a fiberglass shower, or in a situation where you have a bathtub and the drain is going down and you have a cutout here, and there's usually you're staring at dirt. In this case, this is like mortar, right? So they didn't even use concrete. This is for sure mortar, but it's wet, and there's no reason for this mortar to be wet. Like it's saturated wet, and it didn't come from anything out of the pan, because the pan, although it was damp, it wasn't wet. So this didn't come from there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this off. Maybe. Yay. So the only thing that I can figure out, which, you know, I try and at least, as I said, now that I've killed the patient, I want to find the disease. I want to find, ooh, look at that. I want to find the reason that it failed. So this is a 2-inch pipe that has narrowed down to about 1.25 inches, because all that clogged up gunk and all that stuff. And so a lot of times what contractors will do is they'll pour their buckets full of mud and mortar and thin set and all that stuff that they have extra down the drain. And it just kind of goops up on the side there. And or it could be a bunch of calcium buildup, you know, from the water, the minerals from the water. Either which way, this is not unusual, but it's unusual on a house this young. I think this is, I think they said 13 or 14-year-old house. I would see this typically on maybe a 35, 40 year, 50-year-old house rather than this. And I also see this a lot when you get cast iron pipe. And this very well could be cast iron, but anyway, I digress. I don't know the reason this leaked. This is wet, and it could have been wet from the day it was poured. And, well, I say poured. It should have been poured with concrete, and it's not. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Is there a water table without the visqueen? So basically, when they're building a house, you know, they have their grade. Their grade is all their dirt, and they pack it down real, you know, like blah, blah, blah. Anyway, once they packed everything down, all their dirt and all that stuff, and they're getting ready to pour, they put visqueen down because they don't want any water table water leaching up, you know, through that slab that eventually they're going to pour. So between your slab and your grade, you're going to have plastic. So they could have just negated to put plastic all the way up around here, and this is actually the water table of the surrounding area, meaning that this is all moisture from the ground coming up through here, because this is a sidewall. This is an exterior wall. So especially if they have some type of issue going on with drainage on the side of their house, that water could have gotten into this dirt very easily and just kind of made its way over here. And then that begets the problem that they had back here, what I showed at the very beginning of the video, that water is just coming up through there. Or, which would really suck, if they do have some type of problem over there with the rain and all that stuff, that is what caused all that water, not the shower at all. That's a very real possibility. Because yes, this is pressure treated wood, but I'm not really seeing any remnants of water having been here. I think this was, but that's very, very little. It's just not showing it's not rearing its head. Like if all this damage was over here, that would make more sense. But that damage just is lack of care on actually building stuff. Yeah. So I don't have an answer, unfortunately, and I get into that sometimes. And the homeowner says, well, why did it leak? And I'm like, I can't tell you. I wish I knew. But I've never seen this, ever. So what I'm going to do going forward, I'm going to dig all this stuff out. This is probably the 4 or 6 inch slab, and I'm just going to go down about 4 to 6 inches, pull everything out of here, get this drain configuration out of here, and then I'm going to put in a little bit of shale and pour concrete down here. Yeah, going forward. So at the end of the day, the mystery is not solved, and that always annoys me a little bit because I like to find out where mistakes are made so that I can you know, learn from that also, or mitigate those mistakes going forward. And I don't know, you know, the obvious ones are right there, but this is not obvious at all. Anyway, I'm going to move on and get this shower built back. These guys want their shower back. They've gone about 2 months without their shower. Well, they got a shower down the hall, but without this one. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're going to call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.